My name's Simon de Burton. I'm a freelance journalist and I write about watches for the Financial Times and QP magazine and the Telegraph Time and the New York Times, among others. It is certainly quite exciting to come out and see all the people that we haven't seen for ages, and there's no substitute for being able to actually look at these watches and hold them and really look at the detail, because it's such a micro-engineering business. You know, the devil is in the details. So you can never pick that up just from a photograph or from a Zoom call. So to be able to come out and actually see them again and see the things you like and the features of them that you don't like is wonderful, really. I think my standout moment of the fair so far has just arrived, actually, because I've just been to Vacheron Constantin and I've seen their reinterpretation of the 222, which is a very famous Vacheron watch from the 1970s. It was originally made in 1977. And often when brands reintroduce models that have been popular in the past and have become popular as vintage pieces, they tend to tweak them slightly or adjust them a little bit. But Vacheron's been very careful to remain completely faithful to the original design, which was created by a man called George Heisek. And they have adjusted the bracelet to make it more wearable, more comfortable and sort of more supple. But you wouldn't know to look at it. It looks exactly the same as the original. The dial colour is very, very slightly changed from previously, but I think, you know, they've done that because they feel it's an improvement over the original. It is a very subtle change. It's a wonderful looking watch, just as it was when it first came out in '77. I think the only problem is going to be getting hold of one, because it's going to be very popular, and since a vintage one now is over £100,000, the new one is around about 50, so it's pretty good value and going to be very sought after, so anyone who can get hold of one of those will probably be doing well. I think probably my favourite piece so far is from Patek Philippe, and again it's a model of watch that's been around forever, and it's a Calatrava, a new Calatrava. It's called the Reference 5226, and they've made the case up to 40mm, which is on the large side for a Patek Philippe, because they've always been very sort of proud of the fact that they haven't followed the trend of huge watches and so on. It doesn't look big, and it isn't big by modern standards, but it does give the watch a really, really nice, easy to see aspect. The dial's very interesting because it's a stamp dial, and it's based on the pattern of a camera back, an old sort of vintage camera back. And then around the case they have their what is called the Clou de Paris decoration. And the engineering of the watch is very interesting as well, because the case back and the lugs are actually made from one piece, which makes the case itself fit on the wrist really nicely, and it makes the design very, very clean. So really beautiful watch, and it's got a lovely sort of vintage look to the dial. So I think that's probably, along with the Vacheron 222, that's the watch I would like to take away most. Along with the Patek, along with the Vacheron Constantin, there's one other watch which I was very taken by, and that is the Zenith Chronomaster Sport, which came out around about a year ago and has been hugely popular in steel. Zenith has now bought it out with a completely gold bracelet and gold case, and I have to say it looks absolutely brilliant. It looks completely different from the steel version. Somehow looks more vintage, and a lot of people have said, you know, it's a sort of Zenith's take on the Rolex Cosmograph, which I suppose in a way it is, but Zenith are entitled to do that since they produced the movement for the Cosmograph in the 80s. But this gold version, it just looks wonderful. It looks like a 70s, 80s watch, really well made. It's got the fantastic El Primero movement in it, and it's obtainable, which if you wanted to buy a gold Rolex Cosmograph, you would probably struggle without getting on a waiting list, whereas the Zenith should be pretty much obtainable within the next 2 or 3 months. So I very much like that. I think it's a great watch, and it's really good to see Zenith forging ahead, making a profit, making a proper name for itself, and being recognised for what a great brand it is. The watch I'm wearing today is Jaeger-LeCoultre Memovox. It's called the Master Compressor Memovox, and it's about probably 15 or 18 years old. And it's a watch that was designed in the early 2000s by a young woman designer called Magali Maitreya, and she was only, I think, 25 or 26 when she designed it. Quite an interesting concept in that the crowns have got these sort of wing nuts on them, I suppose you could call them, You can wind those down to make the case waterproof. It's got a mechanical alarm on it. It's a watch that in that form is no longer in the range, but I think if anybody's looking for a vintage watch to watch, maybe it's one of those. Maybe they're going to go up in value in a few years' time.